Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, guys. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. I got a great guest here coming up. You guys know Robert Herbage. You've heard his shows. I think I want to call this one "Hanging with Herbage" because
There you
this
go.
man has stories. Aside from being at the top of his field, he is the principal architect at Hospitality Design Group, which means he'll work with clients to get on the same page and with restaurants and the architecture of a restaurant, like how it's going to look, all the different aspects. And my favorite thing is the stories that this man has because he's, like I said, he's been at the top of his game for a long time and he's seen pretty much everything. He's at right now. He's in San Antonio, Texas. The website is hospitalitydesignGroup.com. You can get him there. Let's go to Hanging with Herbage. Guys, with no further ado, it's my man, Robert L. Herbage. What's up?
Not much, Casey. How you doing?
Do you like the Hanging with Herbage? Do we like that?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, you've been so great, and the people, look, we got some from last week, I know, but the instant feedback, people want to talk to you. We haven't really gotten to, so just go to KC Instant Feedback. It pops up on the screen. Mr. Producer will read it, and then Robert will answer live on the air, or you can just call 631-687-5800. Robert, how are you today?
I'm doing really good. It's actually still warm and humid in San Antonio.
Oh my God, same here, man. I think it's 100.
Really?
Yeah, uh, but I don't see the Corvette back there. What's going on?
No, it's sitting in front of me, not behind me.
Oh, so okay, you turn it around.
Yeah, I turned it
Yeah.
around.
So, for people who haven't heard your show before, can I just told them a little bit about the stuff I love, but can you just kind of reintroduce yourself, just in case people never heard your show before?
Sure.
What you do and all that.
Well, Hospitality Design Group, we started it in 1984 in Southern California. We basically created a team of people that all they do is restaurants and their focus is restaurants. And because of that, we've done everything from small little projects that are little food kiosks, food trucks, all the way up to destination type restaurants, and anything that sells food in between. And we handle the architecture, the interior design, and the food service design. So over the years, we've been the lead architect for Fuddruckers and Taco Cabana and International House of Pancakes. And in the region of Southern California, we were the lead for McDonald's. So we've done quite a variety of different projects over the years, and everything that we touch is basically food related.
Gotcha. And you just made me think of something. Like if you did a McDonald's, is there a certain? I mean, they all pretty much have the same color, the same, uh, almost kind of the same, look almost. But is there a cookie cutter thing for that? How does that work when you got a franchise? That's a franchise, right?
Right. Well, actually, McDonald's owns the building. They own the ground and they own the building. The franchisee is really just the operator. So if he doesn't perform, if you saw the movie, The Founder, you pretty much
Oh, is
get a
that Michael
gist that,
Keaton? That
yeah.
okay.
And so that actually, Ray Kroc actually set that up to where if you don't perform, he'll just put somebody else in there. So the only thing that they can really select is their interior decor, what they want it to look like. Some of them go way the years ago when we first started doing them. I remember these doctors were leaving their practices to take on the franchise of a McDonald's, and they would come in with these diamond encrusted golden arch M's on around their necks and stuff.
Oh
And they
my
were
God.
making more money doing McDonald's than they were in their practices.
Wow.
And they were doing stuff like I remember we did one, I think it was on the East Coast, to where it was designed to feel like you were in the bowels of a pirate ship.
Really?
It had masks coming up, it had all kinds of stuff
Oh
going
my
on.
God.
But you're right. I mean, they're all cookie cutter out of Oak Brook, Illinois. And we've messed with the cookie cutter a couple of times. We did it once in Garden Grove where the operator asked us to add two. It was a basement style building. It was down the street from Disneyland, and they asked us to put two extra blocks in the basement. So we complied it, and the whole deal was they wanted to put their offices in the basement of the restaurant. So you would walk in a standard McDonald's, you'd walk straight back, and there's an elevator. And the elevator takes you downstairs to the basement. And when you walk out, you'd swear you were on a floor of a high rise building.
Oh
It
man.
was just glass offices around, ceiling, nice ceilings and everything. And you were underneath the McDonald's.
Wow.
McDonald's corporate had a fit.
I would think that might be a little different.
Yeah, they were not happy that we modified their building and added a couple extra blocks to it.
You said something on one of the other shows that was so interesting. You once did this thing. It was in a high rise, and a restaurant needs a place for the hot air to come out, right?
Right.
And uh, it was glass or something like that, and it was going to screw up the glass. Like you have to be almost like a soothsayer or a psychic to plan for these things. I guess if you've been doing what you've been doing for the longest time, I guess you can kind of see it with facts. But I mean, did you ever see like that problem coming about?
Um, Not really, because the client wanted to be there. It was on Wilshire Boulevard in this high rise that was all glass in LA, and it was the La Salsa restaurant there. And the landlord came back and just said, "Oh, by the way, we figured out a way to get the air out over a canopy." And they said, "Well, we want to make sure it has no grease, and we don't want it to smell like French fries when you're standing out on the street." And so we had to deodorize the exhaust so that they didn't have to clean the glass going up. I can't remember how many stories it was. It was pretty big, but it
Wow.
was all glass.
Yeah, that blows my
But that
mind that you got to take all those little problems and you got to solve all those. I don't know. Did you see those coming? I mean, who could?
No, but it made for some interesting conversations with the mechanical contractor,
uh
because we sat down and figured, okay, how are we going to do this, guys? And they basically said, well, we're going to have to build and it had to be a fireproof room. So it was all above the ceiling. And I swear you could have lived in that room if the equipment wasn't in it
hmm
could to incorporate all of that stuff. And it had to be fireproof so that it did, if it caught fire, because it's grease, it wasn't going to affect the building above it.
Right.
So it was a real nightmare.
Yeah, I bring it up just to show the audience, just to what Robert's got to deal with. Uh, every single problem, you got to take a lot in. This isn't just like, hey, we're gonna hammer some nails here and do whatever. You got to think of outside the box. You got to think of pretty much everything, man. I mean, is that why that's why you love it so much, or does that bring on more stress?
No, I actually love it.
Yeah, the
I
pace.
have, yeah, and it keeps you on your toes,
hmm
and you never really can never get bored because there's always something happening, and
Somebody throwing
everything
something at
has.
you.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, one of the call-ins a couple of shows ago had asked what was the toughest project that I ever had. Took me a while to figure it out, but it was one where we had to completely gut and remodel a restaurant here in San Antonio in 7 days, um, because he had to be reopened and he couldn't only have it down for so many days. And one of the problems was there was this existing pizza oven that was all done in brick and concrete that was in the middle. We had
like
to
a
tear
like a
that.
brick oven.
Yeah,
Oh
we had
my
to
God.
tear that thing down and then bring in a new one that was, now they make them somewhere in Italy and stuff, but they literally have to be hoisted off of a truck with a forklift, and then you've got to get it in the building
7 days.
and in 7 days. And we're trying to figure out how we're going to get this thing off the truck and figure that part out. How are we going to get it in the building? And then it's like, okay, let's call in the professionals and find somebody that's a rigger that maybe they can do it. Well, we had budgeted 2 days for this all to occur. They had it done in 4 hours.
Wow.
And I mean, it just took the schedule and just boom, put it right, right to
You got to love that though, man.
the.
People
Oh
that are
yeah.
as driven as you are, that hey, we got to get this done 4 hours. Wow,
4 hours.
that's pretty awesome. There's no faxing and sitting on your. That's an awesome story. But Mr. Producer was said he's got something. That's pretty cool,
Oh,
man.
cool.
Yes. We have Charlie from Alabama. He goes, "Have you ever feared being successful and the responsibilities it comes with?"
Uh, no, my personality is generally basically get the contract and sort out the details afterwards. I mean, somebody wants you to do a hundred of these things. It's like, okay, let's get the contract, put it in ink. All right, now we'll get the team together and off we go. And
Yeah.
we'll basically go from there. So no, I've never really been too concerned about that portion of it.
Well, I want to add on top of that question of whoever that person was that sent in. Thank you for your question, by the way. Have you ever said, because it looks to me like you have a solution for everything, and if you don't know it, you'll find it, or you'll find somebody who knows how to do it. Have you ever
Right.
said no to a client?
It doesn't usually work. You can float the boat with the problem, but it gets down to if they've got their heart into
That's what they want.
something, that's what they want. So it becomes one of my instructors years ago when I was at Cal Poly Pomona. I was I was doing stuff during the day. They were flying. The company I worked for was flying me to work on the Binions Hotel during the day because we were remodeling in Las Vegas, the Binions Hotel. I'd come back from Las Vegas to Irvine, get in my little Volkswagen, drive up to Cal Poly, and have an arc in my architecture class. And the teacher said one day, he goes, "Well, so what did you do?" "Oh, I'm sorry, I just got back from Vegas." "Well, what are you doing in Vegas?" I said, "Well, I'm the lead designer on the Binions horseshoe remodel." "You can't do that." I go,
What do
"I
you?
know, but I am."
But I am going to do it.
Yeah. So I was doing a little project for somebody, and they wanted some weird roof design, and I gave it my best shot. And I was very embarrassed about the way it looked because it looked terrible.
Oh,
And so I was showing it to him and I laid it off and said, "Well, the client wanted this." And he put me in my place. It was like, there are no excuses for bad design. Your job is to figure out how to make it look good. In
wow,
the discussion, you
that's big.
can't throw somebody else under the bus. It's your
Your
problem. You
name is
have to
on it.
solve it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Wow.
okay. I
So was that
learned.
like a mentor to you? Who was that
Yeah, it
person? Yeah.
was. He was one of my instructors my last couple of years there at Cal Poly.
And he let you have it. He wasn't
Oh
afraid
yeah,
to
he set me
get in
straight.
your, you know what? Yeah. That's
Yeah,
pretty
and
cool.
I had another client one time tell me the fact that it's like, well, if you, and it's along the same thing about throwing somebody under the bus. He stopped me midstream and said, "Well, I just want to point something out to you." He goes, "When you point the finger at somebody, I want you to be aware that there are three fingers pointing back at you. So you need to figure out what your part is in this problem." It's like, okay.
Oh,
So we called it the three finger rule ever since then. It's like, okay, there's a problem. What am I doing wrong here? Because I'm in the mix with the client. So,
yeah. Like I've heard the restaurant business is crazy, crazy hours. But
oh
now,
yeah,
you know, you're in that, and you have these deadlines, and you have to make it look like the client. You got to be pulled in a lot of directions, right?
yeah, yeah. It's constantly a pull. I mean, you're constantly trying to figure out how you're going to get it done. There really are no weekends. You might get a weekend off, but generally you might just go hide somewhere for about 4 hours
Yeah.
to get your sanity, and then you got to get back in and start dealing with it again.
Do you see a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
burnout in this business?
You do, because especially in the people that actually operate the restaurants,
Yeah.
the managers, I wouldn't have that job for all the money in China. I mean, it's just crazy, and they burn out quite a bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's always going so quickly. Everything is needed yesterday. They wait
Mhm.
to the last minute to make a decision, and then when they do, it's all hands on deck. Everybody's basically got to get it accomplished in the shortest point amount of time possible.
Mm.
So
That should be a chapter in the book, Mr. Producer.
yeah.
What else we got here?
Yeah, we have Cameron from Florida. He goes, "What about the hospitality industry intrigued you?"
um I really enjoyed just the pace of it, but the other part of it that's kind of a side to the pace is you get to go to a party at the end of the headache. So
That sounds cool. Yeah.
you're putting all this stuff in, and then they have a soft opening, or they'll do a bunch of different things, and so you get rewarded for all the hard effort you put into it. And it's always kind of interesting. One of the greatest things I ever got to do, we were on a fact finding mission, and we were going to open up this new seafood restaurant, and the client invited me to go with them down to Houston with their operations team. We went in and ordered everything on this one restaurant's menu. And then everybody sat around the table tasting a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it's like, this is really cool.
Yeah, this is all right.
You know?
I could deal with this.
Yeah, I really like this. So yeah, I mean that's the one thing that's really great about it. And you meet some very interesting, colorful people
I
o-
bet. I
over the
bet.
time.
Yeah, I mean it's so cool. I mean, it's almost like people finish a film or something like that. They have a wrap party, and you're doing these things a bunch of times a year. I bet they're all great unless someone gets electrocuted in the
Yeah.
in the
The
kitchen.
butcher shop. Yeah.
Yeah, Miss Producer, we got what else you got, buddy?
Um, we have Jason from New York. He goes, I know you're a Corvette type of guy, but how do you feel about the classic Shelby Mustang?
Oh, I like the Shelby Mustang. I like the Shelby too, but I like the Shelby Mustang. It's a pretty cool car. They have an incredible amount of sound that comes out of those cars now. Even the classic ones, even the new ones. I mean, they've tuned them now to where they sound like just this monster motor going down the road. So
So
yeah,
so
I
is that
love
your
them.
kind of release? You got to have a release in this business. At cars is yours, maybe.
Yeah, and the Corvettes primarily because the first architect I worked for, he was a Corvette guy, and he was of course, according to him, he was a fighter pilot, but he actually flew the Catalina during World War II, the big seaplane. But he made
Wow.
it sound like he was a fighter pilot. But he always had a Corvette, and he was a character. And he was a good friend of my dad's. So yeah, and that's where I got turned on by Corvettes. Uh, just love the car. My
You've been
dad
to
was a
Bowling Green?
Ford guy. Huh?
Oh, your old
Uh,
man was a Ford guy?
he was a Ford guy. My dad was a
Mine
Ford
too.
specialist, and so he took care of all of the Thunderbirds, and anything that was a Ford product, that was his thing. So I kind of jumped the shark when
Yeah,
I
right,
got to
right.
the Corvette.
But did you tell me you went to Bowling Green
Not
to
yet. That's on
okay,
my
but you're gonna
wish
go
list.
because
Oh yeah,
that's where the factory is. Yeah,
yeah.
pretty cool. All right, Mr. Producer, we got time for another one. We got
Yeah.
okay.
We have Ian from North Carolina. He goes, as someone that's made a living in the hospitality industry, do you believe the customer is always right?
Well, they're paying the bill. Yeah, it pretty much works that way. It's hard to get the owner of the restaurant to basically defer to the customer. But then there are some that are so in tuned to the hospitality portion of it in their restaurants that it's like they take everything personally. So anything that's not right, they want you back 2 and 3, 4 times. If you've ever been to a restaurant where the waiter, when you walk in, the waiter knows your name, you feel like a king, you know, and those people really take really good care of you. So if there's a problem with a meal coming out, something just isn't right, boy, they'll bend over backwards to help somebody out.
Mhm.
The guys who don't usually are lower on the totem pole, and they're not really the guy who signs the final checks. So those people, boy, they'll bend over for customers like no tomorrow.
Right, right. Hey, Robert, I got a question, and I'm sorry I'm jumping the line here, but I have a question. What is like trending now? What do you see different directions that people are wanting now? Are they wanting bigger, smaller, more fancy, more blue collar? Is there a trend? Does it go in trends?
Well,
If it does, how do you stay on top of it?
the interesting thing that I've encountered recently is the fact that everybody's responding to COVID but they're on the downside of the wave. It's like you should have come up with these ideas at the beginning of the wave,
Right,
not
right.
at the end of the wave, because it's beginning to come out of the problems. People are coming out of the woodwork. They really are out. Yeah, I mean, gosh, I drove up Northern California and there were people lined up on the streets going out. Everybody was outside. It's like, God, the sun is up. We're going to come out.
Yeah.
And they're going into all the restaurants. So the trends about having everything being drive-through directed, nobody wants people. Yes, some of them want to do that. Some of them want to do the DoorDash and the Uber Eats and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And that's a big trend right now.
Does that hurt you guys at all? Like,
No, it's just that
no?
we literally have to go ahead and figure out how to accommodate them,
I see.
because they end up having to have their own little area where the food's going to come. It's going to be held. They're going to be doing their part cash wise and all
And
that
that's a
kind of
real
stuff.
thing now. You gotta plan that into every
Yeah.
new one you do. I see.
Yeah. But Taco Bell just released this new prototype that looks like a bank building. It literally looks like a drive-through bank building with, if you can envision a horizontal building like it would be in a drive-through building, bank, where you have 4 lanes
Oh, no
and
way.
and the restaurant is up above dropping the food down into each lane. It's like, okay, that was probably good 2 years ago,
Wow.
but once we move beyond this point, I'm not really convinced that that's going to be something that's going to hold up over time.
Yeah.
But
That's like artificial intelligence too. They probably don't even have use for the people anymore.
no,
It's something like that. It just drops down. You got a burrito. Who knows? But wow.
yeah,
So you got to stay on top of that stuff, huh?
yeah. And I mean, it's usually a topic of discussion everywhere. We were in a restaurant last night. We were talking about it, and the the server came and goes, "Yeah, that new Taco Bell prototype. I saw that. How are they going to get the food down? Exactly. How are they going to get the product up to get into the kitchen to get down?
Imagine it was like one of those things that you put your check in and you got to twist the
Yeah,
thing and you put it back and it goes back up. That's It might be fun for a day, but I don't see that lasting. But hey, guys, Robert L. Herbage, I want you to go over to hospitalitydesignGroup.com. Robert, it always goes fast for you. Another great show. I'm waiting for
thank
the
you.
book to come out. You
Yeah,
got so many great stories, man. But let me give you the last word. Anything you want to leave the audience with until we speak again? Another great one. Thank you.
well, and I appreciate time. If anybody has any questions, you want to touch out to me personally, you can either email me at my website, our Herbage hospitalitydesignGroup.com, or you can contact me through the phone number there, or you can, like I said, you can send me an email. But we're open to helping anybody out, solve any problems, or pushing them in the right direction if they need. We might have a source that can help them out and put somebody in touch with them, in their particular area. Um, but yeah, I'd love them to come to the website and look at the different projects that we've done over the years and get a kind of feel of what we can do in helping them out on their next restaurant.
Awesome. Guys, that's Robert L. Herbage. And I thank you to everyone who wrote in, everyone who contacted us, and special thanks to Robert on the Hanging with Herbage show. I'll see you soon. We'll be right back,
That
guys.
was fun.
Totally cool. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.